Good morning, Joe. Oh, I'm paranoid. I keep my camera covered up when I'm not using it. oh. oh, having a rough go getting things started this morning. Then I opened up OBS and it wanted to apply an update. I was like, ah. Good morning, Fernando. So, made some more progress on the Jeep. Printed the front clip last night. Print came out really nice. All right, Fernando. Yeah, I'm paranoid. I keep it covered up, except for when I'm using it. Oh, that's okay. Good morning, Don. Good morning, Brian Vines. So I got to start the next body part because I just pulled this off the build plate a few minutes ago. I got to start the next body part on the Jeep over there on the CR10, and it is CR10 is loaded with the olive green Seagaden filament that Mr. Buttram sent me. Speaking of the devil, there he is. So yeah, there's the front clip. I got my hot glue gun warming up over here so I can glue a couple pieces that aren't going to come back apart. Window frame and the piece that mounts into. And as far as iteration goes, I think it's one of the things I'm going to have to go back and adjust is the depth of the pegs for the window. So they have a little more depth to them. And my phone is blowing up this morning. Stringy hot glue. So there, the window frame is now glued on to the pillar that the doors will mount into. And then I need to hot glue the grill into the front clip. That goes a little warm when you get it on your finger. Morning, Vince. Morning, Mike Whaley. I'm assembling some pieces on the Jeep this morning. I'm not going to glue the seats down until I have everything printed so that I can test fitting it. In there. Pull the wheels off for a second, so I can see where it's not lining up right. Put the bumper off too. There we go. Ooh, yeah. That would be a nice print, Ryan. That would perfect color for it too. Really. I need to get myself a workbench so that this is easier to do. Maybe glue thick enough. Lucky for me, playing guitar has made my fingers really tough, though. I touch a little hot glue, it doesn't really bother me. Clean that up with an X-Acto knife in a little bit. So yeah, I know This isn't the usual stream because I actually have something to assemble and work on this morning. There you go. I don't have those glued on yet. Still need to glue that on. But for now, get the idea. Is coming together quite nicely, I might add, which would not have been possible without a printer large enough to print some of the pieces. Yeah, I did my Facebook stream last night. We got started a few minutes late because every time we kept hitting stream now, my Facebook app kept crashing on my phone. So we were about 5 minutes late getting started. Yeah, I got the new giveaway link, Rover, and good morning, sir. But yeah, it's so far everything's coming together as planned. Hope it continues that way, of course. Stuff like this that can all change with one part just being engineered wrong. But you can see the dashboard and the steering wheel. I was going to do the steering wheel in black also, but the A8, which has my black filament loaded in it, was busy. So I wasn't the most patient. The X1 had the green loaded up in it. So I'm like, the X1's not printing anything right now. I can print the steering wheel in green. That's the same thing with the front bumper guard here. I was going to print it in black originally as well. But again, I was like, I'll have to wait for the A8 to get done printing the interior, or I can just print it in green. I printed it in green, and I kind of like it that way. Morning, Ben. How are you this morning, sir? So the Jeep where she sits right now, I got to print the back clip and the doors. I've got the roll bars already printed that mounts onto the rear clip. But the rear clip and the doors are all that's left to print. And then it'll be a matter of getting everything snugged up good and glued down. I think I'm done with the glue gun for the moment, so I'm going to unplug it. Yeah, I think so. When I modeled it in black, and then when I thought about printing it in green, because the A8 was going to be busy for several more hours printing the seats and the dash, I just opened up Blender real quick and I slapped some green on it, and I, switched the material over to be green, and I went, yeah, I like the way that looks. Well, and none of this would be possible without the help of the community. So I'm really still awestruck by being here and being able to do this, being to this point. And it's coming together so fast. I mean, this will be the start of day 3 of printing. And I've only got 2 more parts to go. One is a 2.5-hour print, and the other one is a 5-hour print. So I should be able to have all the parts printed for it today. Which reminds me, that's what I should be doing right now, is starting and start that. Oh, we'll check on it when it gets going. Huh. Nice how that worked out, that the Jeep is still sitting in frame there. But the roll bar and accessory lights are printed. Those are removable. And that will mount to the rear clip, which is the part that I just started now. So once it starts printing the rear clip, because the doors are going to be kind of optional for people. I designed them to be an optional piece, but I want them. So, and that's the thing that's going to be my biggest engineering hurdle in this is the doors, because they have print in place, hopefully functional hinges, and we'll find out when I get the doors printed. But that'll be the last thing I print is the doors, because I can display it nicely once the rear clip is done. Morning, Scalda. So yeah, I mean, I got a lot of gluing to do yet, but everything's just kind of sitting here, except for I did go ahead and glue the front pillar to the front clip and the window frame to the pillar. And I'm going to have to add some more glue to that grill. I only glued it at the sides. I needed to glue it at the top too, it looks like. Then I'll glue the dash and position and glue the seats. The seats will have to be positioned, because I'll put an action figure in there and make sure that they're at the right depth back so that he has proper leg room and whatnot. And then I'll mark that spot and glue them. Which the seats turned out looking good in black. I mean, I designed them in Blender to be brown, but I don't have any brown filament, so I just went ahead and printed them in black. But yeah, this is coming together way faster and way better than the truck did. The truck took me almost a month to print all the parts. And then I had to sand and file and glue and fill and stuff like that, because I had to make all the parts so, such separate pieces. So I probably will go back and revisit the truck again now that I have a large enough machine. How are we doing on heating up over here? Okay, bed's still heating. A 400 by 400 bed with a 12 volt power supply takes a while to heat up, but I don't mind the wait. I really don't. Well, Ben, I tell you what, man, I will get the Jeep out for you to print as soon as I finish printing it and make sure everything works. I don't want to send you something that you end up having to waste a bunch of filament reprinting something that should have been designed differently. Give me a chance to print it out, make sure it works, and iterate it if it doesn't. Because that's the biggest thing with my designs and needing 3D printers is to print them out myself so that I can test things. Call me crazy. I prefer to release designs that work as intended. Now, everything I've designed requires a little assembly and gluing, so I hope people don't mind that aspect of it. I've thought about going in and trying to re-engineer it a little bit to have snap together press fit points, and I may at some point do that. But the first run of the design it requires some gluing. It's more a model kit. Cool, man. Yeah, I will do that. I will do that after I get the pieces printed and test fit together and make sure they work. I also need to send them over to Roy Holly because I told him he could have first crack at my stuff because he's kind of my unofficial beta tester since he was the first one to print and complete the truck. He did something I haven't done. I have never had the chance to complete the truck. Yeah, I know some people, some people get down on stuff that has to be glued, I don't mind it, but I know there, a lot of people would prefer stuff that just comes out, snap it together and it's ready to go. And I may be able to engineer some press fittings on it to put it together. Well, since the fan kicked up, I think it's probably heating hot in now. It is. So I'll have to step away for a second, go back over there for a second when this gets started to make sure that first layer is going down good. I think this one is a 5-hour print for the rear clip. Oh, here it goes. It's moving. There's life. Skirt is going down all right so far. Maybe a touch too much squish, but I think I found that happy medium where, because the glass is bowed down just a little bit in the center. So I've had to find that happy medium where it's a touch too close as it goes out from the center and just a touch too far at the center. And I think I found that happy medium. Well, I watched this one real close when it's putting down the skirt because that X gantry does tend to get out of alignment a little bit on that side. So sometimes it gets a little bit out of alignment, and I'll start to print, and I can tell when the skirt's going down if it's gotten too far out, and can hit stop and turn off the steppers and make a small adjustment on the motor on this side, on the lead screw, just a couple little turns, and then restart the print. It's usually good. Yeah, but I don't think that bed jack works on the S4 because the S4 has the 2 guide rails for the bed, and they're out to the sides of the bed. There's nothing under the center of the bed. Just the belt is all that's under the center of the bed. Well, it might. I don't know. Does it go between the carriage plate? Is that what? It might work if it goes under the carriage plate. But I'd be afraid. I'd almost be afraid to stress the glass pushing up on it like that. Ben Craig is here. We have Hawk Ben and we have Ben Craig. We have 2 Bens. A tale of 2 Bens. Okay. So yeah, Ben Craig, since you just showed up. Here's the Jeep, where it sits right now, which I still have a lot of gluing to do. And I just got my rear bumper off. All right, it's rolling. So let's see here. Let's go to the screen share. This is the part that I just started. So this is the rear clip that goes behind the seats that the roll bar mounts to. That piece right there. The roll bar is already printed, so I print this, I print the doors, all the parts will be printed. Exciting. Okay, I might print that out and give it a try. Yeah, I thought about doing that, but Robbie Mack told me that removing the glass will, so I would have to remove the glass to do that, will most certainly damage the silicone insulation padding that he put underneath of it. So I was trying not to do that as well, because like I said, it's such a minor issue. It just means the outer surface of a large model is printed a little too close to the bed, and the inner surface, the very, very, very middle, is just a hair too far. Look at that noise. Uh-oh. See, this is why I have to watch. Stop running. It picked up and drugged part of the part of the print with it. It didn't stick. Drug part of it over with it and jacked it all up. So it didn't want to adhere right there. A little dab of glue will fix that. Start it again. Okay. Later, Brian. Do some work, man. Yeah, it seems like if I can get past like the first layer, once I get past the first layer, I don't even have to watch the thing anymore. But I tell you, the A8 has been a champ during this too. It printed the tires and it printed the seats and the dash, and it did a nice job. And I think I think I even got the leveling sorted out better because when I did the seats and the dash, I didn't use a raft. I used a raft on the tires, but I went back after I got done with that, and I re-leveled the machine again. And just leveling the A8 is a little more of a pain because you have to turn the screws on top of the bed. It's not all the wing nuts on the bottom do is lock it in place. The actual screws on top of the bed is what adjusts the level of the bed. So trying to do a live fine-tune adjustment, you're actually like chasing the bed around with a screwdriver. Morning, Thomas Elrod. Thomas Elrod just woke up. I don't feel awake yet myself. I've been up since 6. Got my son ready and took him to school, and got back here and assisted my wife in getting ready for work, and sent her out the door, and came in here and fired up a stream. So yeah, I want to go back to bed too. I got to work tonight, so I might take a nap at some point today. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day. But yeah, you can see. I had intended for the seats and the dash and the steering wheel to be brown, but I don't have any brown filament, so I just went ahead and printed it in black, and that was what was loaded up in the A8 anyway. Now, for some reason, and I didn't catch it when it was doing it, for some reason my oh, well, that's why. I selected the wrong ones. Go figure. I was like, I didn't get my details in the seats that I wanted, the raised things in the back. But apparently I had 2 copies of the seat there. So when I exported it, I exported the copy that, I guess I made a copy of it before I did that in case I messed it up. And so I grabbed and exported the wrong one. So I got the one that didn't have the raised bumps on the back. I mean, it's still a decent looking seat. And figure fits in it nicely. And the steering wheel is as fine as that detail was, and it printed decent. I mean, it's not perfect, but as you can see, the figure's hand can actually hold the steering wheel. So it's the right size to fit in the grip that the figure has. And I kind of like how that ended up turning out, using green for the steering wheel. So, I don't know. I could go back and reprint it later because it is a separate piece. And it press fits in, and it press fits in pretty snug, so I haven't had to glue it. There we go. They're too low on this corner. All right. I think that'll do it. I think she's rolling. Yeah, at some point I'll reprint the Jeep in some other color schemes as well. And I've got a whole list of color schemes kind of laid out for to match different factions within the G.I. Joe universe, because I think it's going to be a easier selling point for me if I print it out in several different factions colors and then just kind of present it to the G.I. Joe community and say, look, here it is, and it can be printed to go with your G.I. Joes. It can be printed to go with your Cobra, Dreadnoks, Battle Force 2000, Iron Grenadiers, and on and on and on. Because they each have different color schemes that they use. Which the Dreadnought one will be fun. Over here. This back up where I can see it. What was the Dreadnought? What they call that? Ground Assault. Images. It'll be fun finding filaments in those colors. Shot right there looks better. So I do one in Dreadnought colors. because the inspiration for this was the G.I. Joe vamp. And then the G.I. Joe vamp has been remade a number of times as the Stinger, the Vamp Mark II, and so I'd like to go through and print my Jeep design in colors that pay homage to, you know, many of these. I don't know if I do the Tiger Sting. The Tiger Sting, might have to leave the Tiger Sting for Ben Craig to print, since he can do color mixing, because it's got that gradient where it starts white, goes brown, and then yellow. Or I'll just have to paint or print one in yellow and then spray paint the front. But yeah, if Ben Craig could print my Jeep and start white, go brown, then yellow as a gradient, then you just have to mask off and paint some tiger stripes on it. You can do the Tiger Sting. My computer is hating me this morning. But yeah, if I go through and print one out in each of those color schemes and design, you know, model accessories that snap onto the Jeep to fit, you know, each one's armament and layout. So then my design would be paying homage to those versions of the Vamp, and appeal to my target audience, which is the G.I. Joe community. That's why I said this one here was, you know, it's kind of paying homage to and inspired by the original Vamp. Figure start at the beginning and then work my way out right there. I have to glue that dashboard in soon so it doesn't irritate me. I'll eventually get around to getting it all glued, and then I'll do some others that are like custom. Like I've got a lift kit designed and larger tires, which might even be cool to do the Dreadnought one with the lift kit on it. Would like to do one in the Iron Grenadiers color scheme. Which is black, red, and gold. So kind of like their I like their color scheme. And then Battle Force 2000 is another color scheme that might be kind of cool. which all I would need to do that, because I've already got that. As you can see, that green there matches very closely the green I've got. Just need to get a dark blue. I've already got silver, but I need to order some more silver. My roll of silver is getting low after printing all this stuff for the Jeep. I got probably a little less than half a roll left. Morning, Bruce. And then I'll have some painting work to do on the Jeep, because I'll have to paint the headlight and the turn signal and paint the front of the accessory lights. But for the most part, you know, the printed colors are going to be the colors on this one. Where when I did the truck, it was all printed in silver and painted. So yeah, I'm, you know, G.I. Joe nerd, total G.I. Joe nerd. But like the problem with a lot of my favorite old vehicles is their designs are either just dated or don't fit to scale anymore with the modern era figures, because the modern era figures are larger than the original A Real American Hero figures, because they were only 3 3/4 inch and the new ones are 4 inch. Make sure we're coming along okay back here. So far, so good. All right. Oh man, the sad part is I was always more into the vehicles than the figures, obviously by the fact that I'm, you know, printing this stuff. I've got a lot of the figures out they're currently in the garage in storage. The thing that I miss the most is not even the biggest thing I had in my collection when I had to sell it. The biggest thing I had in my collection was the USS Flag, the big aircraft carrier, which I've thought it was 7.5 feet long. I'm like, I could print one. Now that I got a printer that'll print 16 by 16, I could print one larger than the original. And just deck panels that lock together. But the thing that I missed the most is the Night Raven. The Night Raven was my baby, and I hated selling it, but it added value to the collection when I was selling it. So the Cobra Night Raven. Oh. Yeah, that right there. That was my baby. Yeah, original Joes were 12 inch. They were Barbie scaled. But then in 1982, they came out with a 3 3/4 inch version of G.I. Joe, and G.I. Joe exploded. It got bigger than it had ever been. And 1982 through probably about 88, 89 was huge. And it started tailing off into the early 90s. Its popularity began to wane. But I was right there in that wheelhouse for 1982. I was 5 years old, and So you know, I was right there in that wheelhouse for GI Joes being a huge thing for me in my childhood. And 1987, I got, I think it was 87, yeah, I got the Night Raven for Christmas, and that was still the one that I had gotten in 1987 that I sold in 2002. And I hated like heck to see it go, man. That that one, it almost brought a tear to my eye boxing it up. It really did. So that more than any other thing that I had in my collection, was that one was my pride and joy. It was such a cool figure, or cool vehicle. It was huge. It was huge. It was awesome, and you know, the color scheme was intimidating and cool. The modern era figures do not fit in the Night Raven, so I've thought at some point I want to pick one up and see if I can't redesign a new cockpit for it, because the cockpit slides down out of the jet here, and two figures could sit in there, one front facing and one rear facing. But I thought I might be able to redesign it where you take that that orange piece there out, 3D print a new one that's designed to seat two figures facing forward, so that the one in the rear's legs overlap the front one, go up underneath of it, and see if I could design it so that two modern era figures could sit in there and then still slide back up into the compartment. If not, I know I could get one in there. I would like it to keep its original, you know, two pilot configuration if possible, but if not, you know, if I could redesign that piece to just seat two figures and slide up in there. And then the inside of the little jet, I don't know if that could be remade to fit a modern era figure or not, because the figure laid down in there with its arms out and its legs back, laid face down. Yeah, I had He-Man as well. I sold all those in 2002 as well, with the exception of I did hold on to. There was an anniversary edition that they re-released all the original He-Man figures in a commemorative set that was like numbered 1 of 10,000, and I kept those. Those are still out in the garage, boxed up, and still in their original packaging. Oh, I don't know. The mask stuff was pretty cool too. That's also a Hasbro property. They have done a couple figures through the G.I. Joe subscription service, where they've released, Matt Tracker from Mask. They released him as a modern era size G.I. Joe figure. So yeah, the Night Raven was the one that I missed the most. They made a more modern Night Raven that came out with that first horrible Channing Tatum G.I. Joe movie, and I've got one of those still in the box out in the garage, but it's a shadow of the glory of the original Night Raven, because it is much smaller. It doesn't have the second jet on it. And it's got this really stupid gimmick where a pistol grip folds down and you pull a trigger to fire the missiles on it. I think that's where, for me, where G.I. Joe got off track, was their toys got too gimmicky. I'm like, kids don't need the gimmicks. Their imaginations, you know, work better when they they have to actually take the little missiles off and either throw them or fly them through the air with their hands, you know, and things like that. I don't know. I think all the gimmicky, you know, flip down and pull the trigger to shoot the missiles and stuff. I don't know. It just, in the early '90s, GI Joes got really, really gimmicky and brightly colored. They got really brightly colored and gimmicky. What was it? I forget what it was called. Oh yeah, there you go. There you go. There, the septic his tank in the early '90s. See how brightly colored and gimmicky it got. This all had like it was like a water gun that it had, and it was bright orange, and I don't know. It just it all got too gimmicky, and I think it started losing the interest. Yeah, see, imagination drove play when I was a kid. You know, you had to use your imagination, and I think imagination leads to creativity, and you know, I don't know. I just think, which is where I think, in some point, you know, kids of this generation, their imagination and creativity come from places like Minecraft. You know. And I think the success of that has largely been because kids were hungering for a way to use their imagination and creativity. They didn't want to be spoon-fed. So yeah, I sat down with the intent to pay homage to the original Vamp, and I will put. I'm going to make a turret and stuff that clips onto the rear of this. I just have not done so yet. And then I will, as soon as I figure out how to do tank treads in this scale that actually work, which I think I might be better off ordering some TPU and seeing if I can't just design the tread to be a big TPU rubber band, basically, that wraps around the wheels. So yeah, that's future projects. Some things in mind. You know, I'd like to go through and kind of make my own designs that pay homage to some of the stuff that inspired me as a kid. And so this was the start of it. Was this Jeep was inspired by the Vamp. It's like a cross between an actual military Jeep, the Vamp, and sci-fi, kind of all blended together. Mixed around in my little head, and actually my head's huge, in my big fat head, and poured out onto Blender, and then 3D printed. So some iterations coming up for this will be a replacing the roll bar with a rear deck cover and hard top that I can put a turret on. And the turret will have, you know, a gun version that will more closely match the original Vamp, and then missile launcher versions to pay homage to the Stinger and the Vamp Mark II. So yeah, I mean they're certainly an inspiration, but these, you know, it's my own design. I didn't want to sit down and copy, you know, detail for detail. So how's everybody doing this morning? Everybody's being really quiet. What's everybody working on? I know some of y'all are at work, at your jobs. Which I don't have to go do that until tonight, so I have to leave the house till 2 o'clock when I go pick up my son from school, and then leave the house again at 4 o'clock to go to work. And then I'll get home about midnight. And then I'll get up and leave my house again at 9 o'clock in the morning to go back to work. And I'll get home at about 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Tomorrow's my long day. 2 shows. Got the printer to accept a hex file. So you got your printer working now, Rover? Cool, man. Well, Bill, if you're working, doesn't that mean you're driving? Encoding overloaded. I just got a pop-up error that my encoding is overloaded. And Chris Riley's here listening, going through 300 emails. Yeah, I hear you, man. I try not to have to. I try not to go through all of my emails at once because it drives me insane if I do. My my fan mail email account gets inundated with stuff, and a lot of it is just junk because the email is a very public email and you can't filter out all the spam. But yeah, the Jeep is coming along. It should be done printing today and assembled Monday. It's probably the first time I'll have to actually get it assembled. What are you doing, Joe? Silly dog. Yeah, I don't have any experience with Arduino stuff, Rover. Although I'm going to have to buy me a Raspberry Pi here soon and set up Octoprint because I would like to be able to keep an eye on the S4 and be able to, you know, having Octoprint be able to remotely stop a print if it's gone south. So that's in the near future. I can't stop yawning, I'm sorry. And Chris was kind enough to send me a list of the things that he typically buys for his Octopi setups so that I know what I need to buy. And then I will do the get Octopi set up on the S4 because the S4 is the only one that really I think needs it. I mean, it'd be nice to have it on the others as well, but the S4 needs it because it is capable of such extended period prints that it'd be nice to be able to check in on it and let it run big prints. I've trusted it the last 2 nights, the S4, to go to sleep and leave it running, and I don't do that with the A8 or the X1. I make sure whatever I start printing on them will be done before I have to either leave the house long term or go to bed. Which isn't too hard on the X1 because given its build volume, it doesn't print large things. So Most prints that go on the X1 are, 4, 5, 6 hours. And they're done. The A8, I put it through its paces printing this stuff for the Jeep, more so than I've pushed it since I got it. So, because those 4 tires took a long time to print. I think that was a 12-hour print. And that's the longest print I've done on the A8 by far. Way by far. I think the longest print I've done on the X1 was almost 8 hours. There you can see the lift kit that I designed for the Jeep. So I may set the A8 into printing. I think I can print 2 of those tires at once on the A8. And then load the silver into the X1 and have it print the axles. And then I could swap out and put the lift kit on for some photos as well. I need to have the go back and have the A8 print the seats with the raised back sections on it too. But maybe I'll save all that for the next Jeep I print, because I plan on printing multiple copies and multiple versions of this Jeep. I need to locate and order a good brown filament, and locate and order a good. Anybody have any suggestions for a good, like lighter brown, like a khaki colored filament for like the desert military color? I also need to print 2 more of these little accessory lights, because one of them broke when I was trying to take it off the build plate. I snapped it right in half. So I didn't put the ones on the grill guard. Boring trolling for dollars. I didn't even finish cleaning it, since I didn't have a paired, its partner to go with it for the front grill guard. I didn't even clean out the supports on the one that didn't break. And I wasn't going to waste time reslicing and reprinting just one of those lights. I'm like, it's an accessory, it's optional anyway. So I was like, I just want to swap my filament and get going on the next part. 3D Paramount on Amazon. What would you call that color? Just look for light brown, PLA, 1.75. Oh, there we go. Military khaki. I think that's exactly what I need. For the next version of the Jeep. So there it is. Ah. Sign in and do that later. But yeah. Good call on the Paramount filament there. Jake from State Farm. Because that is the exact color that I'm looking for. So. Oh, of course. Okay. Yeah, but that military khaki is the exact color I was looking for. I mean, it's perfect. And then I just need to find to go along with it a dark brown to use for the accent pieces. And then I need to order some more of the gray, or silver, whatever, because my roll of silver is getting low. But I think for the brown one, we'll go with a dark brown bottom too. So yeah, order some of the khaki brown and some regular, like darker brown. Get that ordered later today. MG Chemicals. I'll tell you, I've been impressed with the. I'd never heard of Seagate and Filament before, but they were the ones that obviously had the best olive drab color. Nobody else's olive drab was quite what I was looking for, and this was exact. This was exact, and it prints very, very nice. It's very, very forgiving with temperature. The quality and the finish are great, perfect even for this application especially. And Mr. Butcher was kind enough to send this to me, but it's one of those things where I think I will definitely be ordering more of it because the price isn't bad either. Oh, yeah, I guess you didn't get to see. I don't have the seats glued down yet. or the dash glued in, or the bumper's glued on. But there is the Jeep where it sits presently. John's not here. Well, we appreciate you not being here, John. And right now on the S4 is the back section for the Jeep is printing. Oh, weird. It's doing some funky stuff in between travel moves. It's leaving like this this really like textured web between. I don't know if it's a retraction setting maybe that I need to work on. I mean, it looks like it'll just snap right off, so it's not a big deal. The olive drab is C. Gaydon. I had never heard of the company before, never seen their filament or anybody talk about it, but the color is the perfect olive, and it prints beautifully. And it's like, you know, it's a little more expensive than, say, Inland or 3D Solutech, someone like that, but it's $22 a kilogram, which when the color has to be the right color, it's worth the $7 premium. Because like Inland and 3D Solutech are usually about $15 a kilogram. And that's the majority of what I have is Inland and 3D Solutech. Which I gotta say, I've been happier with 3D Solutech than I have the Inland. The Inland's been okay, but it doesn't seem to be quite as forgiving as 3D Solutech, or quite as smooth. Maybe I just need to work on dialing the settings in on it more. But the Seagaden, however you say it, was great, fantastic. Even printing that little steering wheel on the X1, and the X1 is not the greatest machine. Came out nice, and the X1 printed the wheel in that Seagaden filament, and I mean the finish and the surface quality is excellent. Even coming off of you know, a printer like the X1, which isn't the best printer out there, but I love it. I love my little X1. I do. It was unhappy with me the other day because I had taken the I had taken the micro SD that was in it, because when I got the ANET A8, the kid that I got it from, he didn't include an SD card. And so I was using the SD card that had come with the X1 in the A8. So I went and snagged another SD card, micro SD, and the micro SD I snagged was a 32 gig. And apparently, Repetier won't let you use a 32 gig card, and that was the smallest one they had at Walmart, and it wouldn't read the card. So. That's when I remembered that a couple years ago for Christmas we had bought my son a kind of cheapy drone, and it used a micro SD card. So I went digging through his closet because he hadn't had the thing out of the box in over a year, found the drone and seen what it had in it. It had a 4 gig micro SD in it that had come with it. So I pulled the 4 gig out of it and formatted it and stuck it in the X1. We were all good to go. Good morning, Matt Johnson. Gotta work out there's a spot in this wheel where it catches when I'm trying to spin it. I've either got to get in there with a file and see what is catching right there and clean it up, or just keep spinning it until it wears itself in. But I got the tolerances, I mean, just about perfect on these wheels. They spin much easier than the ones that did on the truck. So I'm taking lessons that I've learned from things I've designed in the past and applying that as I move forward, and it's making the design faster and making things work better from the word go. And I guess that's the goal. Because I mean, I've never claimed to be an engineer. So for me, all this stuff, I'm just kind of figuring it out on the fly. But having wheels that turn much easier now, like I said, other than this one, having a catch in it somewhere. But it seems to be working itself out the more I turn it. So maybe it'll just wear itself in. Or maybe there's a small piece of support that didn't get cleaned out of the wheel good. Because when you print these wheels, you want to print them with the hub facing up, and then you want to do supports only where touching the build plate. Because inside there's a flange that goes out, and if you use supports everywhere, it'll fill in that flange with supports as well, and there's no way you can get anything in there to break those out. But if you do where touching build plate only, it'll leave the flange alone and print. You know, the flange will be hollow, and it still has enough support there to bridge across when it gets to the top of the hub to not droop down into that. And then all you got to do is reach in there with a pair of needle nose pliers and give the support a little twist and pull, and pulls the support right out. And 3 out of the 4 roll really well. This one, it's something clicks in it every once in a while. I don't know if you can hear it. Right there, it's passing over something. It's clicking. But it's getting smoother the more I spin it. So. We'll have good rolling wheels. Much better than the truck. The truck, you had to really force them. On there. And that's because I didn't have my tolerances dialed in just right with the inner diameter of the wheel hub. I think it was just a little too tight on the axle shaft. But I think I've dialed that in as far as, you know, from my designs go. So the nice part is I can kind of take and use the axles and the wheels that I've made to this point and just kind of be a template as I move from vehicle to vehicle. So as I'm building each vehicle, I'm getting components that will be able to be carried over to the next one and the next one and the next one. And so that's going to make each subsequent vehicle design faster. And as I figure out, tolerances and engineer stuff a little bit better as I go on, it'll also make each subsequent vehicle work better. This one will be my first attempt at a built-in hinge that is also removable. So it's going to be a print-in-place hinge that will latch in but be removable from the body of the vehicle. So we'll see how that goes. And I imagine I will have to iterate and tweak some stuff on that. But we'll find out if that worked. The print after this one. So I did buy, I actually purchased a couple of add-ons for Blender. Wow. I purchased a couple of add-ons because they're really handy to have. It's called Hard Ops and Box Cutter. Now I haven't got into Box Cutter yet at all. They were just cheaper. It was cheaper to get both of them bundled together than it was to buy one and then decide I wanted the other one later. So it was $38 for both, bundled together from a website called Blender Market. And Hard Ops does a few things. Like I can duplicate, move this up along the Z, scale it in. Now, Hard Ops makes booleans super easy. So say I wanted to, if I hit Control, oh wait, let me select both bodies first. If I hit, oh wait, put tab back into that. Let me undo that. Tab back out. Shift D, move it up along the Z, scale it in, select both. I hit Control minus, and it just carved out that piece. Now the cool part is it works just like an empty does now in Tinkercad. I still got that empty there. I can scale it out. So, yeah, Hard Ops basically gave me some of the functionality that's built into Tinkercad. I know. But it also gives me some other cool features. Hard Ops does better, smoother, easier to do beveling. and does better mesh smoothing. Like I can show you more easily. Like say I wanted to smooth this thing out. Well, before, got a good enough one that we can see. Let's do this. Let's do this piece here. Before, if I wanted to smooth something out, I would have to go over here to the modifier tab, add a modifier, and I would add a subdivision surface. And you look at that, that's just, it's not pretty, right? It's not pretty. And if we crank up the views on it, yeah, okay, now we got it nice and smooth, but you can also see you lost all your detail. And in order to fix that, and you also get some weird artifacting and stuff like that around areas like that, a subdivision surface modifier, in order to fix that, you would then have to go in and set creases and all that kind of stuff. So instead, tab back out, we will go down here, we will remove the subdivision surface modifier. Okay, instead of doing all that, I can literally hit Q to bring up hard ops and hit the sharpen, and now you can see it intelligently kept the edges that it believed needed to be sharp and smoothed everything else. And if you come in here and you go, well, I didn't want that edge to be sharp. Okay, you can select that edge, hit Q again, click on that, and now you've taken the sharp edge off of that. Which I want to do the same thing there. Q, set sharp. See there? It intelligently is able to figure out the areas that it thinks you should be wanting to leave sharp, and then smooths everything else. And if it smooths something that you didn't want it to smooth, then you can go in and you can set that to a sharp simply by selecting the edge. Like say I decided I want this edge here to be a sharp edge. Select that, hit Q, set sharp, and now you can see that it put a harder edge there. And that's just scratching the surface for me. That's the functionality I bought it for. I bought it because one of the things that I'm working on, I was trying to do subdivision surface modifiers, and it was killing me. It was killing me. It was tearing mesh. It was I'm trying to go in and clean it up, and it was causing other issues when I try and clean it up. And one of the things that I've been working on was quickly becoming a nightmare that didn't look good and wasn't going to work. And I'm like, well, I've spent 5-6 hours on this thing. What now? And when I saw that $38 I could get this and give it a whirl, I thought, well, it's worth it. I'll give it a try. And it smoothed it out beautifully, and did not take hours and hours to try to smooth it out. It was click a button, done. So yeah, if you're going to be doing this stuff in Blender, I highly recommend setting aside the money and buying hard ops. Like I said, I haven't used Box Cutter yet, but I hear it's handy as well. But I haven't dove into it at all yet. And it was cheaper to just bundle them together because they're made by the same people. So they had a bundled version. So over the coming few days, I will try to learn hard ops a little better and Box Cutter and all that kind of stuff, because I watched just a couple of videos where the guy was demonstrating what it can do, and his modeling speed and workflow was out of this world. And a lot of it was just being able to, you just click this button here, slide this over, do this, and it was like, wow, he created a like sci-fi crate in like 2 minutes that looked beautiful. So if that can streamline the workflow of designing stuff and speed it up for me, then it'll be worth it. But it's already been worth it, just in what it saved me on one of my other projects that I'm not ready to share with the world yet. But yeah, as easy as it is, it's just you select something you want to smooth, Q, hit sharpen. So smooth, sharpen, Q, sharpen. And right there, if I didn't want that hard angular look, but I do, but if I hadn't, it'd have been that easy to have made a smooth-bodied version of the Jeep, something that looks a little more like a production civilian type car. I could tell those had interfaces. There you go. Yep, that cleaned that up. So see, Hardoff's intelligently smoothed all that out. Where, I mean, it looks great now. It really does. And it seems to get rid of, like, see here on the steering wheel, which I used it on the steering wheel that I printed. You can see the individual segments. And if your printer has got a fine enough resolution, it'll print those. But then I hit that, and it's smooth. And I smoothed it before I printed it. Huh. Walter just released a new mail thing video. So I think y'all are being quiet today. I think I've showed you all the stuff that I set out to show you today. Robbie Mack. Uh-oh. Did it cause you to have a print failure? All that stuff in. There's more handiwork from the S4 there, Robbie. That front clip came off of it. I left it running overnight. And the print, as you can see, the light reflecting off of it came out absolutely gorgeous. It's amazing. filament is great. The printer is great. Yeah, I don't know why that would cause it either. You'd think that would be totally independent of the router. You would think the router would only be required for you to communicate with it from the outside, not for it to communicate with the printer. So that might be kind of curious. So what would happen if just the router like lost power? Does that same deal? I mean, because I would think the router would only be necessary for you to communicate externally with the printer. I would think the Pi, since it's connected directly to the printer, would keep communicating with the printer. You just wouldn't have any way to tell the Pi to tell the printer to stop. Yeah, I'm not sure, man. That sounds like a question for a much more brilliant mind than mine. Chris Riley, you still here? Yeah, 2 more prints and it's done. I got the rear section and the doors left to print. The rear section is what's on the printer right now, working its way up. And I've already got the roll bar printed to go on the rear section, which was also the handiwork of the S4 before I switched filament colors. The X gantry does get all wonky and out of whack when you change filament. Because I mean, I was trying to be really careful, and I still got it all out of whack. I had to straighten it up and check the level a little bit. So yeah, Chris, Robbie said his router had to be restarted, and restarting the router caused the Pi to stop communicating with the printer and failed the print. I would have thought that the router being disconnected would only prevent you from communicating with the Pi, not stop the Pi from communicating with the printer. Beer cans. It'd have to be soda cans for me, man. No beer in the house. No, I don't drink. Yeah, the rulers helped a lot. Well, the rulers is what let me know that I had it all out of whack, and so I tried to level that out best I could, and then found that I tried starting the first print, and then found that I needed to go back and just fine tune the bed leveling as well. But if that's all I got to do, if I only got to do that when I change filament, and that seems to be the only time I got to do it, then that's fine. That's no big deal. Okay, that makes sense, Troy. Hmm. Wired connection, static IP. See, I'm gonna have to know some of this stuff soon because I want to get Octopi set up on this so that I can watch it. Now, Chris, you've experimented with the Octolapse plugin, right? You did a video on that. Does it add considerable time to the print to use Octolapse? That's the only reason I would like to have Octopi on everything, and then do Octolapses so that I can sit down and edit my first video and edit together. It'd be cool to have an Octolapse of each part of a Jeep printing, and then do an assembly video assembling the Jeep. Okay, cool. Yeah, because that's the only reason I would like to set it up on all the printers, is because then I could print all the parts for a Jeep and take octolapses of every part, and then edit together a video showing and put some cool background music or whatever, and show octolapses of each part growing out of the build plate the way that they look when you do that, and then switch to a shot of all the parts laid out on a table in front of me, and then do a assembly video, like step-by-step instruction assembly video. Yeah, remembering, don't turn the light off while you're printing. The time lapses that 3D Maker Noob is making now with his little Arduino camera dolly are insane. think he's going to get a lot of views when he says he's going to put up a video showing people how to make that Arduino camera dolly. Yeah, wait till he's printing another life-size bar stool on the hang printer, right, Robbie? He gets it 95% done, and then reboots the router. Throws away like 3 weeks worth of printing. Well, Chris Riley's got lots of videos out on Octopi, which I will have to revisit because I've watched them all, but it doesn't do you a lot of good watching something that you don't have in hand to do yourself. So I have to go back whenever I get all that stuff and watch it and hit pause and kind of work along as I go. Joel's just released a new video. Oh, what was that? I heard a click. Oh, okay. Little booger sticking up right there. I think it'll be fine. That little inconsistency thing sticking up, and it was nicking the fang as it went by. But I think it's going to be okay. I think we'll recover from that. It's starting to lay down its first solid layer on top of the support material in that spot. And I guess when it did, it lifted up a little. A dog's life. Just laying on the floor. Yawning. What do you get to be so tired about? Well, I gotta come up with some sort of maybe once I get this Jeep working good, everything's printed out on it and working well. Maybe I'll come up with some sort of contest to get you all designing. Uh-oh. Anyway, I need to come up with some sort of contest to get you guys designing. And maybe the contest will be when the Jeep is good and ready, I'll make the STL files available to everybody, and tell everyone to download them, or make the Blender file available, not the STL files, make the Blender file available, and tell everybody to download that and design an accessory for the Jeep, since everything's modular. Get you guys designing an accessory for the Jeep, something, an add-on of some sort. You know, whether you want to design a gun, a different front grill guard, window, hardtop, something. Just leave it up to you. Design an accessory for the Jeep, and then figure out something for a price. But I think that might be cool. Get you guys designing. Get you guys out there and making something. And so I'll make the Blender file available for the Jeep and say, okay, your turn. Design an accessory that is 3D printable and can be put on the Jeep. And then the winner will win something. I got to figure out what to give away. Because everything in the Jeep is modular, and maybe we put it up. You know, I could put it up on my website and do a poll and let the public do voting or something. I don't know. Maybe put it on Twitter and do a poll, and then let the public vote on the winner. Because everything is modular, and it can be something that can be glued on, or something that can outright replace a piece that is on the Jeep. It can be custom wheels or tires or whatever. Design your thing and put a picture of it on Twitter, and we'll get them all like entered into the contest, and then let the Twitterverse. Which Chris Riley won't be able to vote because he's not on Twitter. That might be something to make Chris Riley get on Twitter. I just got to figure out what a good prize would be. But get you guys designing, because that's the purpose, the real purpose of this channel. So I'll figure out the details on it. Like I said, first things first. I need to get this Jeep done, make sure it all works the way it's supposed to. Then I'll put the Blender file up, like on my website, for everyone to download, and then you guys can design a part or an accessory for the Jeep. Walter can vote for you twice. So yeah, that's an idea. That might be a way to prod some of you guys that haven't actually started designing yet to give it a go. And then you can go back and watch my basics video, because I can tell you right now, I designed everything in this Jeep using the exact same basic principles that I displayed in the video. And so whatever keeps sticking up that fang keeps bumping into, it's driving me nuts. It worries me that it's like breaking loose from the build plate every time I hear it. So yeah, the catalyst to get you guys to that maybe haven't designed anything yet to design something and enter a contest. I just got to come up with a good prize. That might be fun. I think that'd be cool. So yeah, I'm going to be letting the wheels turn in here for a few days on that. But it just hit me. I was like, if I get this done, It's a modular design. It's going to need all sorts of accessories and things like that moving forward, like more accessories than I'll have time to design for a very long time. So maybe we let the community design some accessories for it. We'll put them up on Thingiverse or something. I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'll figure out a good way to do it. Keep snagging on something. Alright guys, well, I think I've shown you all the stuff that I was planning on showing you today. The Jeep is in progress. It's coming along. We will, by the time my next stream comes around on Tuesday morning, it should be done, unless I have some major overhauling to do on a part, which I only have 2 parts left to print, so I don't know. I can't imagine it being that major of an overhaul. So by the next time I stream on Tuesday, I should be able to show you guys the finished product, and I'm sure I'll post it on Twitter before then even. But I got some things to do, honey-do list and whatnot, and at some point want to take a nap before I have to go pick up my son this afternoon and go to work and all that. So I appreciate you guys very much. Thank you all for stopping by, and Mike Whaley showing up right at the end. And we'll see you all next time, and we'll see you on Mike's stream tomorrow morning. All right, later all.